Hi, so today I want to go over the original meanings of the words doctor and physician. And you will find those very interesting. And this is all part of this program that I've started a few weeks ago with difficulties with TikTok, but all part of a program of clarifying key words relating to mental health, doctors, and particularly in order to unpack this book, especially this on page 20 that you can 20 that you can actually download from the internet yourself. You can type in DSM-5, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual 5, online, download it, go to page 20, and here we have the official definition of a mental disorder by the American Psychiatric Association. There's a lot more to it on it, but this will make it very, very, very clear to you, as I've explained many times and I've discussed many times for the past 8 months, how with this book there is an ongoing effort, a sort of global psyops, to diagnose every single human being as mentally disturbed. So we looked at words like diagnosis, symptom, syndrome, clinical, and all these words are on my playlist, original definitions of. And as usual, I'm going to start with a 1755 dictionary, the Samuel Johnson Dictionary, and I'm going to jump up every 50, 60 years until present and see what the words actually meant. So I think after this, we'll probably have like another 2 posts to make on the original meaning of, healing, cure, and a couple of other words. And then we're really going to get into that DSM-5. Now, before we start, I'm just going to give you the etymology, the derivations of doctor and physician. And here we go. Doctor, from the Latin doctor, which means teacher. From docere, which means to teach. That is the etymology of doctor, to teach, okay, or a teacher. And we have physician, comes from physics, physic, and it's a Latin physica, which means literally natural things, nature. And that is a derivation of physics, by the way. Okay, so here we go. Let's go and start with, let's put it here. I'm going to start with my 1755 Samuel Johnson's dictionary. It's massive. It's about 6 kilos. And let's go on doctor. It's really, really interesting. The first definition of doctor, I was amazed when I read it because I didn't realize that. 1755, doctor, one that has taken the highest degree in the faculties of divinity, so that's religion, law or physic. In some universities, they have doctors of music. Okay? In its original import, it means a man so well versed in his faculty as to be qualified to teach it. And that's what the original meaning of doctor meant. Somebody so qualified in their field that they are able to teach it. Then we have another definition, a man skilled in any profession. Then we have a physician, one who undertakes the cure of diseases. But then we're going to look at what physician means because it's very, very interesting. Right, and these are your 3 definitions of doctor. A physician, one who undertakes the cure of diseases, a man skilled in any profession, or that very expert individual, highest degree in the faculties which he has been taught in and he can teach. Okay? And then actually we have a 4th definition here, beg your pardon. Definition 4, any able or learned man. Okay? And that's to doctor. And the verb to doctor means to physic, to cure, to treat with medicines. Now we're going to look at the word physic because physic is really amazing. Physic and physician, what it actually meant at the time. So to doctor at this point in time only means to administer medicines or to cure. It does not mean doctor as we know now as well, to doctor a picture or to doctor a document, which means to alter it and amend it to hide information. So let's have a look at physics here. So physic at the time, not physics, physic meant the science of healing, because in those days, physics as we know it now, that a discipline of the modern sciences, when you study physics at school, had a different definition. It was called natural philosophy. And it's actually here, philosophy, knowledge, natural or moral. So you had philosophy as in the study of life and morality, and you had natural philosophy, which actually was what we call now physics and some biology. So that's quite interesting, including some chemistry, but it was mainly what we call physics now. So physics, natural philosophy in the past was really looking at all of nature. Okay, so the noun physic here, the science of healing. And a physician one was one who professes the art of healing. And by professes here means to declare that one is a professional or has as a profession the art of healing. Now notice here we're not looking at degrees, we're not looking at certificates or anything. One who professes the art of healing. Keywords, healing, right? Just keep that in mind. And then at the back we have here physic also meant medicines or remedies. So definition of medicines or remedies at the time, right? We're not looking at the current psychiatric or medication that you get at doctors now, because these petrochemical ones didn't exist in those days. So medicines, remedies. And then we also had a third definition, a purge, which in those days would have had to do with the four humours, which I've discussed already. And we'll look at other meanings. You're going to see the other meaning. They're looking at cathartic, which would have been basically a laxative. So you're purging yourself, going off to the toilets. And then to physic meant to purge or to treat with physic, to cure. Okay, good. So that's 1755. Now we're going to jump straight to the Webster's Dictionary. So this is the American one, and this is 1851. So we're jumping almost 100 years. And I'm going to go straight to doctor here. Here you go. Definition 1, a teacher. Definition 2, one who has passed all the degrees of a faculty and is empowered to practice and teach it. Very interesting, isn't it? Then we have a learned man, a man skilled in a profession. A man of erudition. So erudition means great learning. Then we have a physician, one whose occupation is to cure diseases. Again, we have the curing of diseases. All right, let's go on to physic here. I'm going to speed up now because I took a bit of time. And physic, so 100 years later, still the same, the art of healing diseases. But now, interesting, this is 1851, it says the art of healing diseases. This is now generally called medicine. Now, medicine is a word that we're going to take up in the next post as well. Okay, so second definition, medicines, remedies for diseases. All right. And in popular language, so at the time when you say I'm going to take a physique, it also meant a medicine that purges, a cathartic, which is basically a laxative, and that's what it was called at the time. And then we have a physician, a person skilled in the art of healing, one whose profession is to prescribe remedies for diseases. In a spiritual sense, now this is super interesting. If you've been following my post for a while, this is super interesting. In a spiritual sense, one that heals moral diseases as a physician of the soul. So as I explained many times, in those days, this whole brain theory didn't exist. This was later, this was the end of the 18th century, where this whole brain theory, which then developed into neuroscience, came about, which is completely false. But interestingly here, even in the dictionary, you had a physician of the soul. So the soul was really the important thing. And then we have, again, physics in its most, now the subject of physics, as we're studying here, in its most extensive sense, the science of nature or of natural objects, comprehending the study or knowledge of whatever exists. So this is slightly different definitions. We then became physics now, because physics is the study of the natural world around us. All right, good. Let's jump. Let's crack on. I'm against the clock. Right, now 1880 Collins Dictionary. I love that one. Such a beautiful leather-bound dictionary. All right, doctor. 30 years on, still the same, a teacher or expounder, somebody who explains in great detail. One who has gone through the university course and is licensed to teach or practice in that faculty. One who has received an honorary degree in any of the learned professions. So again, that's starting to change what we have as a doctor now, like a doctor of philosophy, a man of science. And then we have a definition now that's starting to appear, 1880, one licensed to practice medicine, a physician. Now we have the license that comes in. Right, let's go on to physician. Physician, one who is skilled in physic or the art of healing. A doctor of medicine. Figuratively, one who heals the disease or disorder of the soul. Amazing, huh? And we're back to physic, and it's still the same. It's a theory or practice of medicine. So now that's changed now. It's not just the art of healing. It's changed into the theory or practice of medicine. Interesting. Now, as ever, you will have all these definitions at the back of the post. If you go right at the end of the post, you will have the photos of them, so you can read them for yourself. Now, this is a Chambers 20th Century Dictionary, 1906. I thought I'd use Chambers for a while, for a time, because I've not done that before. Doctor, one who has received from a university the highest degree, and so on. That's still the same. A physician, a medical practitioner. So now it's starting to change. And then we have to treat as doctor does. And then to adulterate, to make alterations on something, to falsify. So the definition of doctor, as in to falsify, has finally appeared in a dictionary. I reckon it comes from the French word drogue, for drug. And I'll pick that up when we do the definitions of drugs and medicine in future post. Very, very, very interesting definition. I looked it up. I have an 1875 French dictionary. Looked it up there. Very, very interesting. Okay, physics. Physic, same thing. The science of medicine, the art of healing. So we still have that definition. And a physician, one skilled in the use of physic or the art of healing. So that's not bad. That stays the same. That hasn't changed. Now we're going to jump onto 1956. I don't have many dictionaries from the time of the World Wars, unfortunately. I think people in the West were too busy fighting and dictionaries took a back stand. Okay, doctor. So sorry, this is the Universal English Dictionary. All right, doctor. Here we go. Teacher, learned man, specifically one of the early fathers and teachers of the Christian church. Completely different definition, right? And then one who holds the highest degree in any faculty, or a medical practitioner. Now, what's interesting here is it says popular. So at that time, 1956 here, this became a popular, or around that time, so this is after the war, popular, in popular use, a medical practitioner. So now doctors were being referred to, medical practitioners were referred to as doctors. Whether a doctor of medicine or not. Right. Now, and it also another definition, a kind of artificial dark green fly for fishing. That's quite different. That's appeared. I don't know where that's come from. Okay, and then physician, person trained in and practicing the medical profession, specifically one who diagnoses diseases and treats it by means of drugs, but does not operate. Contrasted with a surgeon who operates. So physician doesn't operate, is not a surgeon. But here we have the drugs that start appearing. Although in the past they were called physique, probably not pronouncing it properly, physic. And these were medicines or remedies. But now we're having the word drugs popping up, interestingly enough. Right, now let's jump to 2000. Let's jump 50 years, and this is the Oxford Dictionary of English. This is a post-2000 edition, and let's see what it says of doctors. All right, doctor. A person who is qualified to treat people who are ill. North American, a qualified dentist or vet. This is for the US. Then you have a person employed to make improvements or give advice. And then a person who holds the highest university degree. So, and also an artificial fishing fly. And this is in the subject of angling. And then you have quite a lot in the verb, to change the content or appearance of a document or picture in order to deceive, falsify, alter the content of food or drink by adding strong or harmful ingredients. And then you have a cricket definition. And you have also to remove the sexual organs of an animal so that it cannot reproduce, or to repair a machine. So quite a lot of definitions have popped up for doctor. But you'll see that the idea of a teacher has disappeared. the definitions of teacher, which were really the main definitions in 1755, in 1851, even in 1906, were still there. These have disappeared. It's not teaching anymore. And that's what it was. So let's have a look at physician now. And physique. Now, in here, physic, it says it's an archaic word, which means old and no longer used. A medicinal drug. The art of healing. So now they've put that as an archaic word. So it's a word that's no longer used. But then 50 years ago, it was still used. You see, well, 50 years ago, in the 1950s, it was still used. So the art of healing has now disappeared. But that's what it was, the art of healing. Very big difference to going to the doctors right now, complaining about something, and the doctor gives you an antidepressant or doesn't even bother to check anything. It just says, oh, go home, you've just got a bit of a stomach, something or other, whatever. The art of healing has gone. If you go to a GP nowadays, ask yourself, are you being healed? That's a question. I'm going to talk about my town and the doctor's surgery that we have at the moment, and they're definitely not healing centres, for sure. I'm not going to talk for other places. Perhaps other places have good doctors as well. I know in the US, that's quite a problem. You really have to go around to look for the right place or the right people. Anyway, so they've got that as an no longer used word, but physician. Let's go back to physician. If I find it, here we go. A person qualified to practice medicine. So now we have qualifications. A person qualified to practice medicine, especially one who specializes in diagnosis and medical treatment as distinct from surgery. It's very interesting because nowadays, if I go to the GP, I don't go anymore because it's pointless in the UK. But the doctor, the GP, the general practitioner, sits and Googles what I tell him. So since we can all Google ourselves or use the AIs, I wouldn't consider a person qualified to practice medicine, because nowadays it seems that that's the way it's happening in the UK, and I know that I'm not the only person. So if you're in the UK and you're lucky to still have a really good traditional doctor, an honest doctor who's actually doing the job of healing and the art of healing, then great and good for you. But now we might as well do it all ourselves because they just use the internet and Google your condition in front of you. So here, original meanings of those definitions, very different from what it was originally. But keep that in mind, because we really need to keep that in mind. We're going to look at the definitions of medicine, of healing, of cures, all this in the next few posts. The art of healing, that was physique. And doctor was a teacher, somebody so qualified they could teach. And a physician was somebody who professed that they could heal.